Hey, what's up? Let
Are
me
you ready
see
to
your
run?
hands,
So
motherfucker.
let me set it up at least. Amit was like, "How was the concert yesterday? The Guns N' Roses concert?" And it's amazing seeing the people you admired like when you were 15. You know what I mean? Just watching them like peak performance, kicking ass. And Amit is like, "I don't get it. I'd rather watch this on YouTube." That's the setup here.
Yeah, and so then I was saying like you're either like a really unique individual or there's something I don't know, there's something different about this generation of kids of
Well,
25
so
or
here's the thing. I went to a concert before in 2017 and I was standing on my feet for like 5 hours and I hated it. Like,
there's
I
no fun in
hated it
that.
so much.
I look, I'm
Well,
a
you
bit
can have a
older now,
chair.
even
You're allowed to have a chair at the
There
concert.
wasn't a chair at that one. So
yeah, even
I don't
now
know,
like
man.
I was a hardcore metalhead. I would go to all the shows. I would want to be in the pit. I would do all that. At a certain point, I actually wanted to hear these musicians play, you know. And so I'd either go see
Yeah.
them at a much smaller venue, or I would actually go and get seats, sit down, have a beer, have a drink with a buddy of mine. There's sometimes you want to go move your body around, but yeah, I don't want to be sitting around, standing around a bunch of people, sweaty, getting pushed around. There's something about
Well,
just
that was when
admiring
we were younger.
musicians.
There was a mosh pit. I did enjoy that. You know, the crowd surfing thing, which was scary as hell. Love
Yeah,
that stuff.
but it's fun. It was
But
fun.
but now it's more about let me just watch Axel shred the guitar, Axel sing those lines that I grew up listening to and singing. So it's just that part is great. Like Axel is losing his voice. That's the one thing I didn't appreciate because he's old. He's like 60 years old, this dude.
60.
So that's kind of
Are
crazy.
Guns N' Roses like a big deal? Like, are they legit in music or are they
Of course. And
just?
the funny thing is, like, I was expecting to just go see like old people at this concert, and you're going there. There's like teenagers listening to Guns N' Roses. Like, I'm like, what are you doing here? Like,
Well,
what
it's a
do you?
lot of
What?
it's a lot of those a lot of us parents would take their kids. Like if I had a
They
kid
had
that
that
was
too.
12, 13 years old, I would definitely take them to see that.
Wait,
And like
Yeah.
this is
what
what
do
I
Guns
grew
N'
up with,
Roses?
you know, like
What do
right
they
now
sing about?
Pantera is opening for Metallica. Like do you
Oh,
understand?
damn.
Like the only time you saw that was at Lollapalooza. Like I saw them once together. And they still rock. I mean, the songs are still
Yeah. And James
those
Hetfield still
older
sounds
songs,
good. Yeah.
those older songs sound much better live than they do when you hear the recorded versions of them now.
Well, also, you know, you feel the energy of the room. It's like going to a real movie, right? Like you feel the energy of the room.
Yeah.
If someone's laughing, it's contagious. Someone's crying, it's contagious. It's that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So if everybody's cheering and singing along, like it brings you up. You know what I'm saying?
There's
You
also
don't get that on a YouTube video. Sorry,
right. And
guys.
there's also the aspect of it, like, and look, and I've been, you know, we've been in a band and I've been in an orchestra, whatever. Every performance of the song is different, and you're still hearing something unique versus the studio album, which is predictable.
Yeah.
Something's going to be different from it. And there's that element of something being live that you can't take away from it.
Oh, by the way,
So
the Pretenders opened, and Andrew Dice Clay came out and did like a 20-minute crazy like just
Forget about it.
Uh,
Hey, little
oh,
Miss
he did all the whole story,
Did he
the
do
nursery
Little
rhyme
Rocket? Oh,
things.
I
He did
know
all of them.
it.
So like I was like, oh my god, I've never seen Andrew Dice Clay live. I've only heard his tapes back in the day, and that
so
was
hold on.
amazing.
I think you guys are right because I checked their Spotify. They get 27 million monthly active listeners. So now I'll believe they're a big deal because it seems
Because
like the data
Spotify
supports
Now
funds
it.
you'll
it.
believe that Guns N' Roses is a big
It
deal.
seems like
Okay,
people listen
Spotify.
to them.
whatever.
Bro.
Number two is what are these guys singing about? They have an album called Chinese Democracy. Like, what are these
Yeah.
guys singing about? That's
Okay,
so
that was their
interesting.
last album, and that was an album that they did after essentially the band left. So the band had some serious issues. They all sort of split ways,
Yeah.
and but Axel retained control of the name. So he had the original control of the name, and basically, I think every single person. I don't even know if the bassist was there. So that was an album that he did with other guys that was still called Guns N' Roses.
Well, Slash quit. They had a big falling
Yeah,
out of
big
some
fight.
sort a
Yeah,
long time ago. Slash had a different band called Revolver. I think
yeah.
for 10
Which was
years.
honestly, but it would and Revolver was whack. Let's be honest, it was.
Oh,
whack.
they did Welcome to the Jungle? I didn't know
Yeah.
they
They
Welcome
did
to the
Welcome
Jungle.
to the Jungle.
Oh shit, this has a billion play. I've heard this song before.
Oh God,
course
this
you've heard
guy.
that
Holy
song.
schmoly!
You know?
Honestly, Amit, if you don't
Or
get a little bit of
Paradise
culture,
City? Are
if you
you
don't get a
kidding?
little bit of culture in you, like life's not worth it if you don't get a little bit of that culture.
No, see,
you know?
here's the thing. I would rather spend my money and go to a live comedy show over a concert because I
Sure,
appreciate
do that.
the
Okay, so when's the last
I
time you went to the
appreciate
comedy show?
I 2019, Andrew Schultz. I saw him in New York City.
2019.
It's been
Okay.
a while, but
we've
I
also
just went to Ricky Gervais, and I'm going. I think it's in 2 weeks. Chappelle, by the way, is here in New York, so going to see
really,
Chappelle
he's
again.
in New York. Okay.
Yeah, in
and
2 weeks.
we
I think,
discussed
something
this before too, Amit. Like, I'm sorry, but like the people that you're going to see are not what I consider Like you're listening
You
to a
don't
guy.
consider comedy, yeah.
You're listening to a guy like I went to look. I've gone to see like Osuna, Bad Bunny, like J Balvin, all those guys that do like the hip hop shows, and they're cool. But it's still a guy that's singing along to the produced track. There's something different when you have a bunch of musicians that are playing music
At the peak of their game too.
Yes,
like,
dude.
literally.
Like this is one of the reasons why I'm such a huge like a metalhead and metal fan, because like it's like there's a limited time window with which you can really play that stuff, and it's just some of the most incredible music that I think you can play. And having grown up on classical music, to me that was like an extension of it. It's just these absolute masters doing what they do, and you get to see them playing these instruments. Like Vitaly and I, when we were kids, there was a club called L'Amour in our neighborhood, and that was like the go-to spot. And like some of these metal bands like Cannibal Corpse, like who was like an old school metal band, you would see them at this place could maybe fit 100 people. And I remember sitting on the stage while like the drummer from Cannibal Corpse was like rocking these songs, and I'm like, it just blew me away. Like anyway,
yeah, Amit's falling asleep.
Up, man.
He'd rather read comments.
No, I'm listening. I get your point. It's fair. And, like, I'm the biggest Drake fan in the world, and I didn't even buy tickets to the Drake concert because, like, bro, the stress of going to a concert and being there on the 27,000 seat, and like, I'd rather just watch it on TikTok. Like, you know, it's just
that's actually concerts like that are just good to take a girl who's gonna have fun.
Well, that's a different problem. Did you guys see my tweet underneath Kelly? She was like, "What's the largest relationship you've been in?" I was like, I've been with my hand for almost 26 years now. I'm going on.
That is just disgusting. Like it's
26
honestly,
years. That's a baby.
I'm never gonna.
Actually, as a baby.
I'm never gonna high five you. I'm never gonna shake your hand. And
I have had a girlfriend before.
Wait. You just said it. Okay,
well, wait. Where's Chris? Is he not coming today?
I don't know. Well, let's we'll do the Vegas thing at the end. Let's get into the guest we have backstage, and we'll get started today. So we have a guest here today who's blessed us with his presence. It's been a long time coming. We've been meaning to get him on. He is an early investor in Tesla 2018, early investor in Palantir. None of those companies
won't hold it against them.
None of those companies will give him the return that he's going to get from being an early angel investor in my startup, Audia, as well. I say that confidently
Carp
today.
Is coming on the podcast.
5 years.
Sweet.
It's not Carp yet. And by 26 years old, this guy has amassed a net worth of $500,000 all through the stock market. Ladies and gentlemen, Ondrej is here.
Hey guys, how you doing?
How's it going?
Doing well. How about you guys? Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Doing well, man. Like, yeah, it's good to finally speak to you and talk to you. Like,
so
if you're not following him on Twitter, he's got like a really I really like the way that you handle yourself on social media. Good mix of like content and comedy. Like, you just seem like a really good dude. So I was like, hey, let's get on and just talk some smack, you know.
Yeah, Ondrej is one of those people that's been around for a while in the community. Not doesn't post YouTube content too much, but he does manage one of the largest financial YouTubers. So we're going to talk about that and his experience there. And was early in a lot of companies. So it's going to be fun to kind of talk about your thesis on a bunch of them and how at a young age you were able to get $500,000 of net worth, because that's not an easy thing to do. And you got Kelly throwing panties.
Damn, you got the panties. That's saying a lot.
I did forget.
I like bras better, but
you know. Is it Ondrej or Ondrej?
Ondrej.
Okay.
And there is a special R that's impossible to pronounce.
Ondrej.
So maybe I should go like a full Tom Nash and just, come up with some name that's like,
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Before you continue, I do want to push a little bit more on something that we were texting about, because I was like, hey, when we were trying to find a time to do this, I was like, what time would be good for you? And he's like, well, I'll make it work for whatever time. And I was like, well, where in the world are you? And you said, I'm in an undisclosed European location. Like, what are you?
So it's like 1 a.m. right there right now, somewhere around there.
Yeah, give us what time is it where you're at?
1 a.m, but I'm used to, working on the US time zone. So there's like a normal day for me.
Wonderful. I was going to say, you met us on our Discord a long time ago. You joined us when we were still Freelancer Finance and doing videos. Right now we've given up for a little bit, but we're coming back. And basically you told me that you were working with Jeremy, and I was like, oh shit, that's who he's working with, the YouTuber, Amit. Did you know that?
Yeah, no, he's been managing. Well, so why don't you tell the story? How did you get involved with Jeremy? You're one of his main managers in his whole operation. Kind of what is that?
100%. So, maybe let me go like all the way back to when I actually started investing, right? Because that was back in 2017. And I basically went to study to Denmark for university, bachelor's degree in architecture, which, obviously when you are students, you're kind of in like the worst possible situation, right? Like almost wherever you are in the world, you need to either finance your studies if you are in the US or UK, or either way you have to find some place to live, pay for that one, right? So, and for me, it was another country that was like the additional level of complexity. So, obviously I found some job working in a restaurant and, being in a new country. So I needed to somewhat to like protect myself, right? So basically I kind of tried to figure out, and I found out, oh, there is this thing called stock market, and it's basically like the greatest wealth multiplier over the decade. So maybe I should learn something about that. And I started watching Jeremy from the financial education right back in that time, and I just slowly started scaling into the market, just slowly, a little bit of an index fund. First started with Apple, like the biggest, safest company. Everyone knows that the iPhone is amazing, right? The whole ecosystem and everything. And I eventually, Jeremy started his private group. I joined the private group, then started a little bit helping here and there. And for the past 3 years, I'm helping him to manage it around, kind of all around jack of all trades.
How did you convince him to let him give you a managerial role when you're not a content creator, you're not a YouTuber, he's kind of the face of the brand? How did you break through and get his attention to give you like a lot of responsibility?
Basically, everyone who's somewhat connected to Jeremy, working with him, is mostly people from inside the private group, right? Because we are familiar with his style of investing, long term, focusing on the fundamentals. So, having that reliable, level headed approach to investing that kind of works for the majority of people, right? So, like, obviously, if you want to sleep well at night, you can just buy the index fund. It's like that, most primitive level. But then if you want to go into the individual stocks, that long-term approach, that's like the second safest, right? And the more you go into the trading, shorter term options, that requires more time, more focus, more effort. So that's not really suitable for majority, right? Then you just need to be like real dialed in and spend lots of time.
So you just messaged him one day and was like, "Yo, let me manage some stuff," and he kind of gave you a chance. And then since then,
yeah, that kind of came from the room inside the private group, right, where we are constantly talking about stocks and everything.
So how much money did you lose on TTCF?
Luckily,
I'm going straight to the hard questions.
Oh my goodness.
There are
I think your mic's busted, Vitaly. I think.
Yeah, Mike, Vitaly.
But no, what we
It's a good question though, because we did talk about this a long time ago.
Yeah, I never actually had the TTCF, so I lose some money on some other companies as well. But yeah, that one I missed.
Thank God. Okay, good.
Dodge a bullet.
That's good. You dodged the bullet.
So what we spoke about as like potential topics is like Amit was saying, you were able to build.
By the way, I bought FUV, with Carlos. So and I stayed too long.
But that did well. We just didn't sell out in time.
Yeah, we should have sold out at 36.
So we spoke about having an episode where we could discuss the path that you went from essentially deciding to take control of your financial freedom and building, a $1 million, $2 million portfolio, as well as getting into some individual stocks. And we'll probably get into PayPal. I saw that you posted something on PayPal today. We could talk a little bit about PayPal. We could talk maybe a little bit about Tesla, where it's at, because it looks like it's getting hammered right now, and maybe even a little Palantir. But why don't we start there? Why don't we talk about the process? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are either at some point in the same process, right? Starting from nothing and wanting to see 6 digits or 7 digits in the portfolio balance. How was that process for you, coming at it from nothing?
No,
and while you do that, I'm going to share your thread on your net worth. Go ahead.
But before you say nothing, what did you start with? Like, what was the actual dollar amount you began before you grew it to 500,000?
Well, I mean, basically zero, right? Because the name of the game is to continuously keep adding month in, month out, getting consistent result. It's not like, when I post the thread, it might look like an overnight success, but it's actually that culmination of those 7 years, investing every 2 weeks, every month, brick by brick, right? So when I was really starting back in the days, I was just, still at the university. So I was investing maybe, $500, $600, $700 a month. Then obviously more and more as I progressed.
So is that what you were doing? You were starting with regular investments, say like DCAing on a weekly basis into
Yeah.
companies. Did you have any like seed money? Like did you have say a couple of grand that you started the portfolio with, or was it literally $400 or $500 at a time?
Yeah, literally just started 1 month, bought maybe like a 300 of S&P 500 and 300 worth of Apple, and next month the same, and then again. And then after a few months, I kind of scaled out of the indexes and more into the individual stock as I got a little bit more confidence. Really, it's a process, right? And it's almost, like if some of you that are listening, if you are young and, just like go for it, right? Put your own skin in the game, because the other way that sometimes happens, when people maybe make their money somewhere in, let's say, real estate or their own business, and they suddenly put, couple 100,000 into the market, right? And then they don't know what they're doing. So it's just better to really like scale into it. Investing, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? So let's make sure that we have that stable foundation for 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, even if someone is starting and they are 40, 50, they still have those 10 years. That's still like a long-term horizon, right?
Yeah.
And you worked a lot of odd jobs to get those couple hundred a month, right? Can you speak about that?
In the undisclosed European location.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have to thank my father, obviously, who was always, very hard worker and instilled this like a great work ethic, I would say. So, even just to get to Denmark, right? Because that was also, I had to move, rent an apartment there and everything. So I was working in like a warehouse and then selling strawberries in summer and this kind of stuff. And then in Denmark, basically working mostly in the restaurants. It's kind of like the typical immigrant job, right? But I was, I was student, right? So I just had like my tiny apartment. I wasn't spending for anything. So whatever extra went into the market.
So did you not care much about grades, or did you keep a good balance of school and your academics while still investing?
Yeah, I managed everything, because I was also traveling every day to school, an hour there, an hour back. So, those 2 hours were basically for investing, reading lots of books, Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, kind of the classics, listening to, at that point, it was mostly financial education, Jeremy, right? Because at that point, it was still basically the only person out there, because that was, again, 2017, 18, right? So all of the other people on YouTube, they kind of came in 2020, right? With the whole pandemic and everything, then the whole finance YouTube exploded. But before that, it was mostly Jeremy, Graham, Stefan, right? Where Graham, you obviously have that baseline, kind of like the personal finance aspect. And then Jeremy is for the individual stock picking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 4 guys basically, or 3.
Ondrej.
Meet Kevin too.
Yeah, meet Kevin. Those 4, the Millennium Money guys.
Yeah.
Well, I can understand. My story was very similar. I started my portfolio with $90. I mean, this was $90 in like 99. I had $900 in the bank, and I said I'm going to take 10% and on this stock market thing. The same thing. So you don't need to have a massive seed investment. You just need to have a sort of determination and a little bit of extra capital on a monthly basis or weekly basis,
and a long time horizon.
Yeah. I wasn't looking to sell anything at that point. I was like, I could probably lose all of this, but I
think
believe in these companies, in a lot of ways, the ignorance, like we talked about it, didn't understand market cap, in a lot of ways that ignorance worked for me, because I didn't really know what I was investing in, and sometimes having too much knowledge makes you think that you can outsmart the market instead of just giving it time.
Well, yeah. So basically the way you make anything real, like big gains, like you did in Apple and so forth, is just by waiting, honestly, in good stuff. Even if you bought the S&P back in 2001, when we were, we knew about Google, we knew about Microsoft, we knew about these companies, but if you bought that, what has been the return of the S&P over the last 20 years? Enough. It would have been enough.
Up and to the right. I mean, it's literally up and to the right.
So it's about time. I think a lot of people here, because they expect every day to find some new 10x stock. That's why they come to the Finance Junkies, to find the new 10x stock.
I think they just come here.
FUV. We got to pump FUV. We got to do it.
I mean, honestly, me and Carl's been talking about like the same 4 things.
Dude, if we were doing Finance Junkies when FUV was like the rage, forget about it.
Yeah,
the show would have gone down the drain.
No, I don't 36
so.
text. Hit 36
Yeah,
sets
but
in a year.
yeah, but if we didn't, well, that's true.
Well, we didn't know to
No,
sell.
I'll tell you
because-
why. I'll tell you why I think that would have been okay is because I think even through all the hype, yes, we did not sell early enough. Like we didn't buy enough, we didn't sell early enough. But I think the whole time we were always very realistic about that company. I don't think we were ever considered like
It was never
fluffers.
a big
we were not
position, first
pumping
of all.
shit.
Yeah.
We were always very critical. And we had several interviews with the CEO and we would ask them, the tough questions.
What's up? What's up, Chris?
Hey, Chris.
Hello
What's up,
there.
guys? What's up,
What
guys?
a homie.
Okay, so Ondrej, question for you by Kelly: is Ondrej single?
Yes, I'm currently single, ready to mingle.
Well, she threw her panties at you. I don't know if you saw that in the chat. Like
That's
these, like,
true.
I don't know. I don't like the way Kelly just moves on to the next guy as soon as he's on the screen.
Every day. It's a new
I mean,
one.
it's ridiculous. Kelly, it's over. Whatever we had is gone.
She's you could say she's a portfolio chaser now.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, how much Palantir do you have?
Oh, I can get her back then. Kelly, you're back in.
I don't know, man. With that end phase dip, your portfolio isn't looking as big as it used to.
Oh goodness.
I think if we compared for portfolios for real, you would be really sad, Chris. You'd be really sad.
I think you'd be surprised.
I would.
Okay.
How
So,
long did you hold those TCF calls?
Hey, remember I sold them, right?
Exactly.
See?
Exactly.
See?
Yeah, you left a
There you
bag
go.
holder called a mitt.
First of all, I'm not
Whoa,
bag
hold on,
holding.
hold on.
I'm not bag holding
Hold on,
yet.
hold on.
Hold
Hold on. First and foremost,
he's
he's-
about TFC.
All right, it's not about me. It's Ondrej.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that.
What am I talking about?
TFC.
Yeah. Sorry about Ondrej. What's going on, man? Sorry I missed the earlier part. I don't know what's going on. Me working late at night, my sphincter has basically like
Oh, God.
reset itself. And now I take a dump right before the pod. Like it's literally like it's like clockwork. Like 15
happens.
minutes before this starts, it's like, go take a dump. And today I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it some time. Ondrej is gonna be on. I'm sure the guys will butter him up with some good questions. So, Ondrej, how's it going? Thanks for joining us.
Like your stomach portfolio took a dump.
Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
before we get into more individual stocks and we'll do the super chats in a sec, I want to ask you one more question about helping Jeremy with his YouTube. So obviously you understand the YouTube grind really well.
Wait,
even though you're not.
are you still working with him or for him? Are you still doing
Yeah.
it? Okay.
For the past 3 years, still on.
Okay.
And what are your just so everybody knows? What are like the typical responsibilities? What are the things that you handle?
Yeah, here's the question, all in one. What is the stuff that you handle, and can you speak to a little bit of how hard you think YouTube is, even though you're not a YouTuber, but you're managing one of the biggest personalities on the platform, dealing with everything you have to deal with? Kind of how is that experience?
You don't
Yeah,
have to
so-
disclose everything, by the way. Just whatever.
No, yeah,
because,
of course, but obviously, and that's also like Jeremy is one of the hardest working people I know. Like that like there is video 2, sometimes 3, basically every day, right? Including weekends. So
And they're good videos because he's actually doing analysis. He's not just like sitting there,
Exactly right. It's solid research, doing it, every day, looking through the companies, everything. So and so that means that basically my job kind of varies throughout, helping him with the marketing, research inside the private group, with the people. If we need something inside the private group, some of the automations, when there is a video posted, right? So obviously Jeremy kind of posts it on YouTube, but then lots of these stuff around is automated, that it also goes on Facebook, it also goes on Twitter, right? So the video posting that's automated, right? So we don't, have to do everything manually. So make sure that this kind is working. So, there is lots of these behind the scenes, right? You kind of, as a creator, you kind of want to do the work once and then it needs to magically appear everywhere, right? So that's
How big is the team? I'm curious.
Depends what you count as a team. There is just like 3-4 people, kind of the core full time, and then sometimes people are helping, VAs, this kind of stuff.
What's interesting is I joined for like a few days. Like Ondrej helped me join real quick. I wanted to try it just to see how everything was structured in the private group. And it was actually very fascinating because everything is organized really well. But I found that the training materials were actually like, if you are very new to investing and you want to learn some really good principles that you can learn early on, I think those were really good. I felt that I was a little bit too, high up there in terms of like understanding these things. So it didn't provide me nearly the amount of value that that could have been provided to other people. But I can honestly say for the price, which I thought was a little bit high, but after really like looking at a lot of the materials, I found that it's actually really
What are the
cheap
materials?
because
You mean videos of him going over?
not just him. He has a group of people that will present stocks,
Six-figure
like
club,
go through,
seven-figure club.
yeah, go through a lot of due diligence with each individual, each company. Like it's so a lot of times people think that some groups are all about just you join the group and they tell you like this is a good stock, you should buy it. Like these guys don't do that. They actually will go in depth why it's a good stock. These are the fundamentals, the reason why. This is what the the cost of the stock should be based on these principles. And it's a lot of in-depth research. And the thing is, it fits right into like the Peter Lynch model of doing things, which is if you invest like a group, you will have more success because you won't fall into this category of people that just basically only look at things from one lens, right? So in the book that Peter Lynch wrote, he wrote that there was a classroom of high schoolers, or was it middle schoolers, that were able to beat most hedge funds because the way that they did it was they were aggregating data and putting things together. So a lot of this private wealth group that I was part of for a little bit, you saw that where everyone was putting inputs in, and then also like the people at the education level were really like professionals, like they knew what they were doing, So to me, like I said, I have so much going on. It didn't provide me the value that I wanted. But essentially, it's something that I think for someone who's very new or even intermediate to investing and they want further guidance, I don't think it's a bad thing to join. I mean, the initial price, I'll tell you, Ondrej, is the only thing that probably holds back a ton of people, which is somewhat high. It's like 15, like I don't know if I should say the price out loud. I'm not going to say it.
Let's not disclose it, but it's also, it's a little bit like with gym membership, right? You need to commit to it because then it also pushes you to actually go through everything, right? So
I just want to point out we are not pumping Jeremy's channel or his what is it? It's not Patreon. It's whatever it is. Like
it's private wealth group.
Private group. I would say most people should not do it. In fact, I haven't been part of it, but honestly, the best way to learn is to learn. I know you're saying with a group, but step one is just to get a couple of good books. Read the Peter Lynch book. Start with something smaller. Start with paper investing where you don't have to put any money. I think that's how you learn.
Money there, right? As I started investing, like put your skin in the game, right? Even if it's just a few hundred, right? That's
fine too. Yes, that's fine too. A few hundred is okay, but it's not by following everybody into the breach because you're just gonna lose a ton of money because you don't have their conviction. Even if they give you the full thesis, you don't have their conviction. It's not going to work out.
Well, I always say this, that it's not just a bull thesis on specific companies, but it's also a mindset of investing that's synthesized in a very clear way. So like, dude, me and you, Vitaly, we've probably lost a ton of money on our journey to learn how the market works, right? So if you can avoid those losses and get to the end quicker, maybe that's you can't
avoid it. You can't avoid it.
I mean, that is kind of true. Like you will still always have those pitfalls. But my thing is, with a group like that, the chances of the pitfalls are probably less because you're actually talking to people who've had those pitfalls. Like, okay, here's an example. I think Amit benefits from having guys like us when he talks to us. Because remember right now, like with the SoFi thing, we were cautioning him, like, look, even though you're up the gains, we've been in the same position as you, take some money off the table. These are things that he could have learned by taking a huge loss that, hey, maybe it's a good idea sometimes to take money.
But now he didn't learn anything. Now he's just a degenerate gambler who's still all an option.
No, that's Vitaly.
If he lost his sister's money, imagine the next 10 years of his life to make that.
No, that's stupid. That's dumb. No, see, here's the thing. This is why I actually disagree with you on the group thing. The price is the price, whatever. If there's a market, someone's willing to pay whatever they're willing to pay, then okay, charge whatever the fuck you want to charge, right? KRIS has a $25
price.
If people are able to pay $25 a month, they'll pay $25 a month. What I think you're underestimating, and I'm so privileged to have, is you guys. You guys are my group, right? Our WhatsApp is our group. For other people that don't have access to three of you guys, that group that Jeremy's created that really does teach the right principles, and we can all objectively say he teaches the right principles because he's a long-term investor, that's priceless to some people. So to me, I do think it is very valuable I'm telling you, man, if I didn't have KRIS or you guys and I was doing it by myself, I would still be making the same stupid mistakes I made in 2019 because you can't learn this shit. DNA, all this bullshit. Like it really, and that doesn't mean you're gonna not have, like, KRIS might be wrong sometimes. You might be FUV, you might be wrong sometimes. Jeremy got TTCF wrong, but the broader scheme of what he's building it's valuable. And then if people are willing to pay for it, they're willing to pay.
That's
it's-
true.
And remember, for every
able-
one for every one tattooed chef, the guy's got Skyworks Solutions. The guys get so many winners that
Western Digital, he called it CBS or Rite Aid, and you got to look at that too. Like, you're not going to be able to avoid losses, but when I've had other smart dudes in my corner that are somewhat invested in similar industries, it's helped mitigate the losses. It's not that I'm not going to take the L, but sometimes someone would recommend maybe you cut your losses at 5% and don't go down with the ship. So you're not going to, I don't know anyone that doesn't lose money. I know that's Warren Buffett's first rule, but it's really hard not to lose money when
Warren Buffett just lost on GM. So don't worry about it.
It's not always up to you, right? It's not always up to you, but having people there that can fill in your blind spots. Cause I think all of us as investors have blind spots. There's no matter what, there's always some kind of bias, and optimism bias is the big one that I think gets a lot of people.
Yeah, and look, if you have the results and you're like, I don't care what you have to pay to get into some group. If you can make that much back, it's worth it, right? And so the question is, can you
by the way, education is not free. You're supposed to pay for education. That's the way it works, at least in America. Okay, so you're always going to pay one way. If you pay it through the group, that's one thing, or if you pay it by losing some money in the stock market, that is another way to get educated. Either way, you're going to pay money. Bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the stocks that you're in right now, Ondrej. So, what should we talk about first? Maybe let's do a couple minutes on Tesla. These guys, Vitaly and KRIS, were early on Tesla. KRIS made his dad lose a lot of money on Tesla. I didn't get into Tesla. How did you?
Potential gains. I made him lose potential gains.
Shots fired.
He didn't lose any money. All right.
How did you find Tesla, and why did you hold through? And do you still hold Tesla?
Yeah, still hold Tesla. First bought it back in 2018, buying through 2019. All in all, threw around 10K in it. But bear in mind, back then I was just, studying my bachelor's degree. So that was basically like half of my net worth was in Tesla at that point, at 10K. And I mostly got into it because, I'm somewhat smart, but I'm no genius, right? But I have plenty of people around that are worth listening to. And again, obviously, Jeremy was talking about Tesla. Katie Wood was talking about Tesla at that point. It was that time when she had that super complex, Excel spreadsheet with that Monte Carlo simulation. I was listening to Gali from Hyperchange, right? So, kind of that mixture of the engineering and then looking into kind of at that point, I slightly understood, the basic financials and everything, and saw that the profitability might come soon and they might make it. So, basically that, triangulation of these different data points, right? Both from the engineering angle, also from that financial angle from other people. And just bought it and never sold and went through the ride, which was also...
You haven't taken any profits at all on Tesla?
No, still holding all those
original shares. So wait, so are you up? So you're up 20x then on Tesla?
Well, roughly.
How about DCA? You never bought any shares ever again?
No, because it was such a, I already started with half a portfolio in Tesla, right? So over time, I wanted to a little bit diversify. And also for the learning purpose almost, right? Because, you don't want to be just that guy that just has, Tesla, right? Which, obviously you put it into the title. It's amazing. It, kind of changed my life because it proved that, investing is amazing. It can really lead to those 10x plus results. But, what's the next stock and what's the next one, right? I want to do this over and over. And let's see.
How much, Ondrej, you said you put 10K into Tesla at the time?
Yeah.
So that's basically 200 right now.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's pretty good.
So here's a question. So you're 26 years old now?
Correct.
Okay, so you're 26 years old. Your portfolio is $500,000. What are your long-term goals? Now that you see what's possible, what goals do you set for yourself now?
Roughly 10 exit every 10 years.
Do you have, but are you setting
on this channel? We try to do it every year.
KRIS does it every month. By the way,
we try to do it three times a week,
and twice on Sundays. No. But my question has more to do with what's the end game here? Is the end game like a certain number? Say, a few $1 million. I retire and then go do something else. Is it a certain percentage gain? Like what's the long term goal? Are you still working a day job now?
Well, working with Jeremy is definitely more than day job. That's like two jobs.
But that's your full time.
How many hours is that? Curious. What is that? 60 hours a week? 70 hours a week?
60, 70, 80. It kind and
Slave
it's
driver.
and it's
Sound like
basically
you work in
It sounds
television.
like Amit, and he doesn't even pay us.
and
Ondrej, you also have your own stuff on the side. You're doing some media stuff, so you do a ton of different things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of all, overlapping that, I'm, let's say, on Twitter for myself, right? While I'm working for Jeremy and doing something. So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, trying to like stack all of the activities. But yeah, the plan is, two possibilities, right? Either once you get your portfolio to, and people have a different numbers, right? But maybe once you have maybe 2, 3, 4 million, that's kind of the time where if you want, you can just do like whatever the F you want, right? That's one possibility. That's okay. Maybe I will, stop being hungry and just, okay, let's do something maybe completely else. But at this point, it's still nice challenge, right? I want to get those results year in, year out, outperforming the market with a wide margin. With obviously my portfolio is super volatile, going for those companies like Tesla, that's right. Now Palantir, obviously also super high volatility. So there were really at least 2 times that my portfolio basically got cut in half, right? Both in 2020, the first COVID wave. So, I basically, and that was such a sharp drop, right? So, basically almost like a frozen in time. But when everything dropped around April, May, I still had some money on the sideline, just put more in. The stocks that I had before, they basically recovered to where they were. And the stuff I bought at the bottom, they doubled, tripled, right? So, okay, nice. Then obviously last year, the bear market, and obviously Tesla going down, Palantir also going down. So my portfolio...
How did you deal with Tesla going down? I mean, that was your biggest thing. Did you didn't care? Or
Conviction. I mean,
guess, yeah, conviction
is still there. Yeah.
I guess at that point it was already the second time, right? So you kind of get a little bit, and I think that's maybe one of the topics that people don't talk that much about, that, how it really, feels seeing your portfolio fluctuate. And that's also why I really advocate for people to just like start with whatever you have at that moment. Because, okay, back in 2020, when my portfolio reached 6 figures for the first time and then got cut in half, right, with this first COVID drop, well, okay, I managed then. And now it's the same. It's a bigger number, but it's still just, going down by half. So I guess I got desensitized by a certain degree.
I want to point out, Peter Lynch would say the average stock goes down 50% or more in a year. The average stock. He didn't say a specific stock. He said the average stock includes big companies. So this happens all the time. The question is whether you're buying something of quality that's being cut in half and undervalued, or you're buying something that's going to become a value player, something that's turning around. And a lot of people thought Meta, for example, was becoming a value stock. So it got cut by 80%. Some people think that's going on with Enphase and Tesla, so there is a lot of homework to be done to see which one is not the problem stock that's turning into a value play, but still a growth play.
I also think you brought up a good point about the sentiment. Like, they tell you don't go food shopping either full or really hungry. You're going to make poor choices. And it's the same thing when the stock market's running and everything's green. It's easy to think that it's going to continue forever. And this is why people FOMO in at the top. But it's also the reason why when things do drop, like when Tesla is at $100, it's the reason why people don't pull the trigger. They don't pull the trigger, even though when it was 200, you would say, man, if I could buy more Tesla at 100, I would. But when it actually gets there, what it actually feels like in the market, when you're actually seeing the FUD in the news and the attacks coming, it gets very hard to pull the trigger. And I think that was a Peter Lynch thing, right? That it's not, investing is not with your brain. They don't have the stomach. People have the brain for it, but they don't have the stomach. And a lot of it is the stomach. It's really hard to be throwing your money in to something that's like, burning in ashes.
He has a couple of examples. One of them was Taco Bell. I forgot what year. Obviously, this is a while ago, but it crashed and kept crashing, and it went in from like high double digits to low single digits. He looked at he kept buying it all the way down. He's like, they still make money. They're not going bankrupt anytime soon. It's hard to go bankrupt if you're making money. Yeah, you don't have any debt. So these are big things. These are actually important things. Hard to go bankrupt if you're making money and you have no debt. So he looked at that. He bought more. And I mean, that was his whole philosophy. Like, buy something you understand, And obviously on the way down, you better start to understand it more before you buy it, and just double check your work, because he always did that.
Chris, go ahead. You were going to ask a question.
No, I was going to say, that makes total sense. The thing is, a lot of times when markets draw down, they take entire sectors down with them. And so a lot of great companies with great balance sheets, cash flows, they all get taken down at the same time. Like, and these days, because of the wave of so much index investing, I feel like there's actually less price discovery than there was like back in the day, where if you're fundamentally a solid company, like just think about it for 2 seconds. Did Google really need to go down from like 140 to like 88, considering that they were a cash flowing business that was doing exceptionally well? Even under the most challenging headwinds, you knew that this company was going to recover, right? It's just a matter of time that it was going to take for it to recover. Now, yeah, you couldn't predict the bottom because everything was falling down at the same time, but you can tell that there were so many outrageously great deals that were to be had in November. Like Tesla was at 100. Just that's mind blowing to think about. Meta in the 88 range, considering that they're generating so much operating cash flow. But you know what it came down to? It came down to actually it was necessary, because a lot of these companies, they had gotten so full of themselves, they'd taken the eye off the ball, hired a ton of people that weren't providing any value. Their cash flows were dropping like crazy. They were investing all these different plays that weren't materializing into any profitability. So these companies, the market has a way of steering the companies in the right direction, whether you want it or not. So it came down to the stock price being the voting machine that everyone talks about, and basically telling Zuckerberg, hey, you need to stop with this extra spending that you're doing on non-essential things that are not generating you value. Google, you need to stop investing in so many bullshit things, and same thing with every single company in the market. When these corrections come, every company has this opportunity to introspectively look at themselves and then make the fundamental changes necessary to get back into growth mode, because that's what happens. Because sometimes when companies do exceptionally well over a long period of time, they get just like any other person, they get cocky. They think that they're the hot shit. They can never do any wrong. They're going to be just fine. And then the market comes, gives them a whacking.
Wake-up call.
They wake up and they realize, hey, wait a second. And maybe that was the same thing that happened to PayPal. I'm doing more research on PayPal, of course, right now. But if you looked at PayPal's prices, they went up to almost $300 something during COVID. So maybe they got a little lax. Maybe they hired too much. Maybe they focused less on the customer, right? That now that the price has been knocked down so much, every day the meeting should be, what are we going to do to get this car back on the road? And this is the hope that I have, that the board and the new CEO take some serious actions necessary in order to course correct where they need to. I think they already started doing it by doing two things, which is they're doing 7% of their workforce is being laid off, because they probably figured out that, hey, we overhired. There's not as much productivity being provided by this percentage of people. That's huge savings. If you think about it over a 5-year period, if you take away that many employees for the next 5 years, think about how much cash flow additional that you're going to have. And if you channel that cash flow into buying back shares, that's just providing you more and more value to the current shareholders that you may not have had last year, right? So,
let me ask Ondrej
of the buybacks. I'm sorry, I've just become such a fan of the buybacks lately. Just even talking about them, like there's nothing bad about buybacks.
You and Warren Buffett, definitely not.
Okay, Ondrej, tell us why Vitaly and Carlos are out of their mind for not understanding Palantir.
And actually, I'm surprised, right? Because, one of the reasons why I invested in Palantir and started to get into it in the first place was that connection, obviously. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, okay, more, two guys that are really looking into the future, really doing those hard things that needs to be done, but it takes quite a long time to get into some solid result. And that's what I'm seeing with Palantir, right? It's definitely one of the companies that basically can transform your whole enterprise, right? But not everyone is willing to take that, the medicine, right? When companies like, KRIS, you mentioned PayPal, right? They have lots of the levers that they can pull to improve. And there are so many of these, like interdependencies in companies, right? Like, you have different departments, and there's also lots of bureaucracy inside, and lots of, office politics and everything. And, one side of the company doesn't know what the other side is doing. So you need to make sense of all of this data, right? And that's what Palantir is trying to untangle all of these.
So why do you think Vitaly and Carlos don't get it?
That's two. I'm gonna let you say that. I'm gonna let you say that one more time. So make it count. I'm gonna let you say it one more time, and then I'm clapping.
Hard to say. Maybe it's that more on the software side compared to obviously Enphase, Tesla, physical products that are then a little bit into the software domain. But what's your guys like main problem with the Palantir? What's like your
I'm not falling for this. I'm not falling for the setup.
I'll give you the like the 30-second thing. Okay. It's not that I don't think that the company can and eventually will make money. It's more to do with, I'm not a fan of Alex Karp as the leader of that company. I think that company specifically should have someone more like, I'm sorry to say it, an Indian guy. I just want to hear an Indian guy to tell me how the business is doing. Fundamentally too, I believe that just
any Indian guy would do.
Right.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, also, I believe that we need as much as we need a separation of like church and state. I believe we need a separation between government and the private sector, right? and I see government and the private sector melding in Palantir in like open ways, right? That's number one. That's number two. Number three is inherently the work that they do for the government makes a lot of what they do secret or subject to secrecy, and that is something that is difficult for me to value as an investor. Third is the nature of their business too deals with war and fighting, right? And that's something that I think we need less of, conflict. I think we need to have some more diplomatic solutions, and we're not necessarily looking that way. We're making a bigger hammer, right? And then when you look back historically, we've been in a situation where Palantir has been being used to like win this war in Ukraine, and the stock is not showing that. So in the time when they should be doing what they do best, helping us win the war.
It just went up 200%-300%. What are you talking about?
But I mean, we know that it's fake. They're making $1.
Of a war.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the time when the stock should be pumping, and we should be hearing great news about the benefits of having Palantir. So those are my general things with just the stock in general. And then outside of that, with all of the other companies that I know more about and industries that I know more about to invest in, there's only so much money to move around, and I feel like my investment would be better somewhere else. But that being said, I'm still holding him 100 so shares. He's
going down with the ship. But
I'm on the ride. I'm on the ride, and Karplos could come out at any moment. You know what I mean? We get another good earnings call. He might come back again.
Yeah, 100%. So let me kind of try to unpack the couple of those notes that you've made. So let's start, for example, with that separation, commercial, government.
Yeah,
that could be an option. I agree that in theory that
separate them out.
And let me speak, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? Because obviously now that they are connected, they are basically helping each other. Because it's usually lots of innovation historically happens in the military, right? And then it gets transferred into the more commercial products and use cases, which is basically what's happening here inside the Palantir, right? They started working for the government for the most complex solution, fighting terrorism, these kind of stuff. And what they learned, they are now applying to the commercial sector. And so, okay, these two sides are basically helping each other. It's a synergetic. But if you look at it from the financial perspective and kind of the perception of the market, market probably doesn't like that much, right? So, if you would split the businesses, you would almost like a weaken Palantir as a company, but you would almost like instantly create some shareholder value because of that separation. Those two businesses will get different multiples. One of them.
I'm not even saying to separate them on the stocks. I'm just saying like be very clear with investors during calls about where money's coming from and how each of the divisions is growing, because it's very possible that the commercial sector could support the company. The other thing about it too is if they're saying that the big problem that they're having is sales, I still have not heard yet what they're doing to fix that problem. And that to me is a very easy problem to fix.
Yeah, definitely. That's also always the topic of discussion with Palantir, and I still think it's a little bit. They with the recent surge of AI and all of the hype around it, they kind of fell into the gold mine, right? They didn't know how to sell properly with everything, and now they, at least that's what they're saying, now they are having a customers banging on the door and okay, let's try it suddenly, so let's see how it translates. But one more kind of the complex thing about Palantir, and it's a little bit similar with as with valuing Tesla, right? Or valuing Tesla back in 2017, 18, because okay, with these high growth companies, most of the value is created in the future, right? So let's say when we are now getting all of these clients onboarded, they are now producing such a minuscule revenue because it's just some freemium, some small, hey, let's try it on this one use case. But okay, let's say the company tries Palantir for some specific use case for maybe 1 million, right? But there is the potential that over the next 3-5 years, they will basically engulf the whole company, right? They will move to the whole department and the whole company. And from that 1 million initially might be 10, 15, 20. So let's say they just keep adding those clients, let's say now they are adding around 30 clients every quarter. So that's 120 clients for this year. Maybe they speed up to 150 next year, 200 the year after. And in 3 years, the clients that are starting now are suddenly paying, 3 times, 5 times as much as they did. So I basically made a thread on it on Twitter, so you can take a look there. But if you kind of try to do this napkin math and extrapolate it, those 3-5 years into the future, then the numbers can get quite crazy, right? And
so what do you think is the fair valuation right now? A fair price for that company?
Yeah, and that's a super, super complex topic, because at this point, like, there is not much that is supporting the current price, right? Maybe at the moment, maybe around those 12, I would say that would be like,
I agree,
what you call a fair value.
Right.
But it's
basically cut in half of where it was.
Yeah, and I think all of us have been saying. Ondrej, were you instrumental in getting Jeremy to look into Palantir more, or did he come to the conclusion himself?
Yeah, basically, inside the group, it's a two-way street. Jeremy, the team, the members, we have over 100 members with more than 7 figures. So, also plenty of people that are dialed into the market. So plenty of people had the position built out well before Jeremy, me included. So, sometimes Jeremy comes with an idea, sometimes one of the members, it really varies.
Gotcha. Okay, moving on from Palantir, any other stock picks in your portfolio? If you had to pick one outside of Palantir and Tesla.
You didn't even wait until you gave me a minute to come to some conclusions on Palantir, being that I went from a bull.
Aren't you in Palantir weekly?
KRIS, this is not your episode. This
that is
I mean,
true.
you can speak, but we already know what you're gonna say. I mean, like, it's fine.
What am I gonna say? No, go ahead. Tell me what I'm gonna say.
That's gonna
Please.
say.
It's overvalued.
Wait. But do it in Chris's voice and put yourself in that square down there at the bottom and be Chris. There we go.
Look, guys, I tweeted something today about Frank Slootman, and everyone needs to watch and obsess over. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, go ahead. What were you gonna say about Palantir?
No, I was just gonna say, the thesis behind Palantir should be looked at from the lens of a quarter-to-quarter basis, how they're operating, okay? When I got into Palantir, they were growing really fast. They were growing really well. Their business, for all the promises that they made, they're not executing. So why should I risk my capital on a company that's not executing? This is the same fallacy that a lot of investors fall into when it comes to companies that are unprofitable, where the CEOs do such a good job of promising stuff, but then under delivering, and then it's almost like it's all forgiven. Like, you guys don't have any sort of like, hey, maybe the CEO is not actually trustworthy. I mean, you're talking about a data analytics company that said that they were going to grow 30% year over year, projecting out that growth, and then they cut it in half and less than half this quarter to 12%. What's his excuse? Don't even talk about it. That's what he did. Tell me why you would trust a guy like that with any capital whatsoever. And that's the problem that I have with Palantir as of right now. Does the valuation eventually drop to a point where I think that it could be investable as a value play? Maybe. But right now, the leadership at Palantir has given me no confidence in saying this is the guy that should be running this company.
The times me and Chris agree, we're usually right.
But then it's also a question, is it growth in terms of revenue or in terms of client, which might
Revenue.
Either one, they're going down. Their client growth is not good. Their revenue count is not good. Their profitability is magic money because interest rates are high and they've been stocking $3 billion in cash and they're using the interest charges to make it look like they're operating on an additional cash flow basis. They're not growing any bigger than.
Just take a look at this. Just put this up for a second. I really don't want to talk about Palantir, but you're forcing my hand. The number of people who use it, 610 customers. Palantir market share, 0.22%. MathLab has more market share. Okay, if anybody knows MathLab, I do. IBM, SPSS, whatever, 20%. MathWorks, I don't know why they're even talking about these other things, but the point is the market share is shit. The number of companies that use it is so small because it's basically a niche product that you have to have millions of dollars to use.
Yeah.
So that is my bare case. That
there is data analytics, and then there is data analytics, right?
There is not a big company here at this point. Okay, when they flip and they make some sort of a software more available for more people, and they expand out their market, I'm actually okay with buying more Palantir. I've had it once, by the way. So when that changes, I get more bullish. I can't get bullish on a niche company. That's what it is right now.
And by the way, I agree with everything. I think me and Andre, the only difference we have from all you guys, like we kind of want to be there before all that good stuff happens, and so that's the only difference.
But just so you know, I didn't buy Tesla in 2012 or 2019 or 29. I would have made more money if I would have held it, but I bought it when the Model 3 was coming out. It was going to start 2018, right? When they were talking about the Model Y, and then a year later they talked about the Cybertruck before the stock had the massive run. So my point is, you can get to something later and still have your 10x. Like you don't have to be there
even what you were saying on Ondrej about the clients that they have now, year over year, quarter over quarter, and year over year, they'll start to monetize them more. I mean, there's still a long runway.
There is a long time.
You know,
a long time.
This is kind of sad, but I'm going to address one of the comments. What is it? It is okay not wanting to invest in a stock, but to disrespect the leader that has done so much for your country. Yeah, and guess what he's gotten out of it? $2 billion. Alex Karp's net worth is $2 billion. All right. So all this
and
thing
about Carlos, we looked at its compensation. Remember
his compensation? If you look at the top paid CEOs, I mean, like he makes more money than Tim Cook.
Yeah, and not it. And what's really sad is, dude, just because he says, look, Palantir did all this stuff for the country. No, they didn't. Like, you don't honestly know what they've done for the country because there's a black spot. There's still a black box company. Okay. I'll give you an example of something that Palantir did that really irked the army that no one really talks about. Palantir's actual targeting software actually targeted a village leader in Afghanistan. And one of the S2s at the time, one of the people that make decision makers stopped a drone from basically killing this villager and his entire village from a drone strike. You know why? Because apparently Palantir's software said this guy was a terrorist. And the only reason why they said it was a terrorist is because the guy was wearing a hat. And in the sun, it looked like a similar hat to one of the guys who they identified looked like a terrorist. So the AI was wrong. And literally Palantir almost took out a village full of people because of bad information. So not all software and everything is, yes, maybe the intention of Palantir is good, but maybe sometimes there's flaws in it as well. So to consciously say, oh yeah, Palantir is all about America, rah, 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 and we should invest in it because of America, rah, rah, rah. Dude, that's not how you invest. That's really not how you should invest,
Okay. Stocks that you are into, Ondrej, that we don't talk about too much. Any kind of other ones that are in your mind?
What's your third? What's your number three? I missed that.
So my number three would be SoFi.
SoFi.
Okay. What's your thesis on that one?
Well, it's a bank, but with a fintech flavor, right? They are growing the fastest. They are, basically stealing the customers from the big banks because they don't have any, big capital expenditures. They don't have the physical locations. So they are much leaner, and then they can pass all of the savings to the clients, which means that they are growing super fast. And that's about it.
Yeah, I think the groupthink on SoFi has been pretty big. I know that on Twitter, it's had a big community, and that's also convinced a lot of people to look at it. Because I know you weren't looking at it for a while, but when so many people are screaming about it, At some point, you got to take a look and be like, what's going on under the hood? How do you feel about Anthony Noto?
I was still busy with Palantir at the time, and unfortunately, both SoFi and Palantir started to run at the same time. So I was literally on one of the weekends, I was consuming like 20 hours of different like SoFi content, looking into it, running some of my numbers.
Can you speak to that? How long do you take before you decide to invest in a stock? What does your due diligence look like?
Usually it's a long one. With SoFi, that was a little bit different. But for example, with Palantir, I literally bought my first Palantir shares right after the public offering. But it was just like such a tiny position. And then it ran, in 2020, all the craziness. So I just, forgot about it. But then after it dipped again below 12, then when I started, accumulate more and more and more. And I was, keeping up with the company for the whole time, right? So, since 2020. And I also have, plenty of different companies that I'm kind of following or at least keeping an eye on them. And there might come an opportunity, right? So, for example, with PayPal, it was something different a year and a half ago, and it's something different now, right? So we also want to keep all of these companies, in the shelf, and maybe there comes the opportunity and we have to strike.
That was actually a question that I had. Like, what industries interest you? Like, what are your personal interests that also cross over? Like for me, I'm in entertainment. I love EVs. I love tech. So obviously my portfolio skewed to things that I just inherently like. What is that for you?
Yeah, I'm more towards the tech, software, kind of more innovative companies, mostly growing fast.
Are there any industries that you would stay away, that you stay away from, that you say, you know what, I'm not investing in this at all?
Yeah, definitely not oil and gas or some of the heavy manufacturing. That's a little bit, those companies are mostly either cyclical, which kind of, then we have to like a little bit kind of trade in and out of them. What I really want to do is to have a position that I can hold for 3, 5, 10 years, ideally, like Tesla, right? Hopefully now with Palantir, unless they disappoint me, or some other companies, right? But it's also that almost like an ideal scenario, right? Because then also, given, let's say, for example, taxes, right, this kind of stuff, it's ideal when you can really just hold the company, you're satisfied with them, you don't need to necessarily buy more, you don't want to sell, and you just keep looking for the next one, right? So also when we are maybe building a portfolio over time, for someone who wants to pick individual stocks but spend some reasonable time on it, hey, maybe you start year one, you find 3, 4 companies to start with, add another 3 companies next year and the next year, and then maybe you end up, let's say, year 4 with 100K portfolio, you have maybe 9, 10, 12 positions. So, keep it somewhat reasonable number that we can keep track of. So, maybe 10 position in the portfolio and maybe keeping somewhat eye on 20, 30 companies. That's somewhat, like attainable for everyone who has those 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a week to at least be somewhat involved.
Yeah, before you move on, hold on, before he moves on from the topic, this is important. You should have multiple companies in your portfolio, because once again, we don't know what'll happen, So even though I'm a big Tesla bull and I do have a large stake, but it's not my only company. So if Tesla does go down, but then my other 2, 3 other bets take over, I'm still not out of the running. And I know a lot of people that we talk to on Twitter and here, they're like 90% in these plays, like 90% into Palantir, 95% into SoFi. And I'm like, you're just being super dangerous. Even if you are right at the end of the day, you're just being extremely dangerous.
What about dividends? How does that play into your portfolio?
Not a big fan, also because of taxes, right? Because then you are basically forced to get the dividend. You have to pay the taxes for it. And what I'm going to do with it now? I want to reinvest it anyway, right? So better invest in a company that's reinvesting in themselves and growing.
So when you go to work, do you pay taxes? Just curious.
Like the daily work, yeah.
So you go to work, you're okay with working somewhere 9 to 5 or whatever and you have to pay taxes.
Vitaly, the taxes in Europe are ridiculous.
Hold on. My point is, he's okay with paying taxes in one way, but not okay in making just consistent money. So it should just be part of the calculation when you're investing in something else. So I have enough real estate where I do have to pay taxes on the real estate because I get rental income. Believe me, I do not want to get rid of that real estate. I enjoy the rental income. That's a massive point to understand.
Well, yeah, paying taxes on money that you don't have to work to
It's ridiculous.
earn
It's
is
like, yeah, I'm
is
paying
not a
taxes
bad-
on what?
It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Quick
Chris,
thing,
go
have you
ahead. Go
guys have Jeremy ever looked at Snowflake? Because I know if you look at Palantir, you should probably look at some of their competitors.
We're
and
running out of
Snowflake
time
in
too.
particular.
Amit, were we going to
Yeah.
announce something?
We were. Let's do like about 5 more minutes with Ondrej, and then we'll do an announcement at the end, and then we'll end it off. So we'll do the Snowflake question. I have one more question, then we'll end it off. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I think we looked into it maybe 1 or 2 quarters ago, a little bit with that comparison with Palantir, but I don't have any like specific insight or conclusion on either side, to be honest.
Gotcha. And what about Disney? Because I saw that in one of the emails. Like, have you guys been researching Disney?
Yeah, we are looking into it, but it's, let's say, because it's basically like a turnaround. Same with PayPal, right? And PayPal is the easier choice of the two, right? Because okay, that's the structure, a couple of levers, operations. With Disney, that's the culture, and that's the tougher one, to be honest, right? That can still drag along for a long time. There is still now with the Snow White lady. It's still so many problems. I would rather not deal with it, to be honest. It will happen at some point. I trust them that they will turn it around, but it might be a much longer.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, last couple questions. Quick one for you, Ondrej. One part of your portfolio is Spotify. This is one I disagree on a little bit, just given some of the business models and things I see from a unit economics perspective. Any 30 seconds to a minute thesis on Spotify as a part of the portfolio?
Yeah, basically, they are still growing users very aggressively, and once they have users, maybe even 30% more, maybe double up, then they can find a way how to somewhat monetize them, right? So it's one of those companies where it might be a big win, it might be somewhat kind of like a meh result, but like it's basically one of the biggest social networks, and I'm really a big fan of audio, obviously. So lots of bright future there, but they just need to find a way to monetize it, and that might be also like those 2-3 years in the future. And so I'm not really paying that much attention to it. It's really user growth, and then that monetization can go like a high variance of possible outcomes, right? So it might really.
Yeah, and I think user growth is phenomenal. Also, worst case scenario, they can't make a business out of it. They're going to get bought out, and you'll still get a premium. I mean, like if they can't figure out the unique economic, which I think they will over the next 10 years, they'll figure it out. If they can't,
they can do so many different things,
Yeah.
right? You can make it more social, more with the concert. It can be more direct. They can squeeze the music labels, kind of over time as they get more and more important, even bigger than they are. They might get better deals with them. Yeah.
Okay, last one for you. I think you already touched this, but top 5 holdings. Thank you for the super chat, David. And any thoughts on ASTS?
ASTS, not familiar with them, but yeah, to maybe wrap up the top 5, besides obviously Palantir, Tesla, SoFi, Spotify, and number 5 would be AMD.
Okay. When did you invest in AMD? 2020?
David had another one.
It's
by
also
the way.
just this year, a couple months ago, started position.
Okay, cool.
I think David had one more super chat.
Yeah, I'll do that when Ondrej leaves. I'll do that when he leaves. Okay. All right, cool. That was the episode with Ondrej. For those that don't know him, now you know him. He is on Twitter. Please make sure you follow his Twitter. It's in the description. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. Again, was early on a lot of companies, has been in the YouTube finance space for a long time, and happy to have had him on the show. Twitter is in the chat. You can follow him there. Any last words, Ondrej?
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, guys. And yeah, take care.
Thanks for joining us. It's late. Thank you.
See you on the next one. Bye.
That was good.
Boom.
I like that guy.
Yeah. That was awesome. All right. Last 5 minutes. We got an announcement to make. Chris, you want to make it? You want me to make it? Vitaly, you make it? The shit we were talking about last night in the group chat?
We started early. We were talking about.
You guys had the 600 messages, so why don't you just make it?
That's true. That's true.
I forgot what.
Okay,
you do it.
We are doing a trip. We are doing an official trip. Let me put on my good camera for this.
Finance junkies are going to be the flying junkies.
We're going to Vegas.
Oh God, that bell! I thought he lost
Bring
the
that
bell.
bell. Bring that bell.
I'm bringing the bell.
It's like the All-In Pod, right? They have a yearly conference.
Yeah, except we're not going to have a stadium with like 10,000 people, but we are going to Vegas. Tentative dates October 26th to October 30th. October 27th is my birthday. So we'll be celebrating me turning 26, but also it'll finally be a time for all of us to get together. So if you are in the Cali/Vegas area, none of the details in terms of hotels or anything are there, but DM me on Twitter at Amit is Investing if you're even thinking of coming through. I think on the 26th or 27th night, maybe we can do a dinner for everyone who's there. I'm expecting maybe 5 to 6 people come out. Like it's really hard to make these trips. So if you guys are down, we'll have a dinner on like the 26th or 27th at one of the hotels at a nice restaurant.
I know exactly where we're eating. I won't disclose it just yet, but I know exactly the restaurant we're going to be eating.
That's funny. And the guy, Persian Prince, said it's like The Hangover. So Amit's gonna go missing. We're gonna have to find him.
Amit's gonna get a face tattoo. Chris is gonna lose a tooth. Vitaly's gonna get eaten by a lion.
It's gonna be a fun weekend. I have not gotten effed up, I guess is the lack of a better term, since college. I mean, so this is the one weekend I'm giving myself to actually like drink a little bit. I mean, I haven't drunk in.
So wait, you're gonna be in town. You're gonna be in town the 26th.
Yeah, so tentatively, Chris, Vitaly, and I are thinking we'll go there 26th and 9th in the night. Carlos, I think you'll be there 27th or 28th. And then 27, 28, 29, we party. And then 30th, we fly out in the morning. That's kind of...
Yeah, I'll probably end up... I'm going to have to do some crazy shit. Okay, I'm probably going to end up going straight from work to the airport on the 28th early morning. I'm going to jet suite it, so I'll be there in 45 minutes. I'll be tired, but we'll push through. 28th, that Saturday, we're going to party. 29th, we can party. And then the 30th, I actually have work that evening. So whatever, we'll make it work.
We'll leave 30th morning.
Yeah, 30th morning and like afternoon, I can leave because I could sleep on the plane. It's only a 45-minute flight. It's so fast. You're up and down. So yeah, we'll make it work. It's going to be fun. So yeah, so if there are people that happen to be out there, it'd be cool for one of those nights. I'd probably say Sunday night would be better. I think Saturday night we just want to go party. I have something planned for that too. I was telling you what I think we should do for that, like just to get that Vegas experience. And then Sunday we can keep it somewhat chill and meet up.
Yeah, with people. Yeah. I've never had a real Vegas experience. Last time I went, it wasn't really an experience in the context of Vegas. So this will be my first time.
We are going to that room.
I warn you now. There may be live events.
What do you mean? What type of live events?
What are you talking about?
You get it. He doesn't go to live events. He doesn't believe in standing going. So,
Admit, you might have to actually.
Well, it depends what I'm looking at the live event. There's a whole,
We're gonna just bring that brick background and have it.
And Amit, you might lose your virginity on this trip.
Oh my god! I fucking hate you guys so much. I fucking hate you guys. Chris, are you excited for Vegas?
Yo, dude, you don't even know the debauchery I have planned for you, bro. That's what we're gonna do.
Debauchery, that's the word that comes out today. Oh my god.
Yo,
I'm gonna leave Vegas. I'm gonna leave Vegas so fucked up. I'm gonna be like, fuck Palantir. I'm all in Snowflake. That's how fucked up I'm gonna get. Chris is gonna
you better change your Robinhood password before you go out there, bro.
Yeah, no, that's what I'll do. You just let the cat out of the bag. I was gonna like, hey, FaceTime, open his Robinhood, sell all his Palantir, right? Buy nothing but fucking Snowflake. And then like 10 years when he's a millionaire, be like, remember that time in Vegas? You turned me into a millionaire and I didn't invest in Palantir. Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm gonna name my first son Chris because you,
oh my
man.
God.
You.
No, that's not a horrible name.
In Carp Trust, tattooed backwards on his neck.
Well, all I know is Ondrej, Jig, and Jeremy are getting their houses egged. No, I'm just fucking around.
Yeah, we've got to do something. If they are, we got to be able to.
We should do a
Jeremy, if you don't come, we're gonna egg your house. So you gotta hang out with us at this point.
No, we're gonna do an Elon Musk. We're gonna come to your house and we're gonna challenge you to a fight.
So here's the thing. I'll invite Jeremy, but
who's the other one? Graham Stefan is also there. There's like those three guys are right there.
Yeah, I mean Jeremy has a family, he has responsibilities. I don't know if he can get fucked up in Vegas, but if he does come, that'd be fun. Even if he just comes.
Come on, Jeremy. One day, bro. Hang out with the junkies.
One day.
Okay, so if you're actually interested, email me. If you can't email me on Twitter, ACookRages227, I will put you in a group chat with all of us or an email list, whatever it is. I'll figure it out and we'll get things going. It'll be I've seen one fan in person, and that was last time I was in Vegas. Her name was Cindy, and she was like a 40-year-old mom, and it was so surreal actually seeing a fan in person. It was kind of crazy. So it'll be really nice to see you guys in person. It'll be super fun.
Yeah, just somebody. Yeah, that would be weird, meeting somebody who like you've never met, but they like know a lot about you. That's weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's super dope.
We might have to do I gotta jet too. We might have to do a live at the casino, and all the super chats that day we'll just put it on black.
Go right
just
on
go.
black. Yeah, no, we're gonna
And
use
go.
my we're
Do
gonna
a
use my
live
roulette
stream.
method. We're gonna use my roulette method. We wait till we see 4 or 5 like blacks or reds in a row, and then we start doubling down, guys.
You already know that's a losing strategy, Carlos. It's
What
not
are you
how it
talking
works.
about?
Man.
What are you talking about? I won.
One
I
time, you know
Yeah, but
that
I
there's
didn't hold on,
yeah.
hold on. But I didn't
Yeah.
tell you. I didn't tell
He's
you.
a true
I didn't tell you
gambler.
about some- I didn't tell you
Yeah.
about some. It is gambling, Vitaly. That is actual gambling. I didn't tell you about my other time. I hit a couple of numbers, like $5 bets on the numbers. or
One
$10
can
bets
of
on the
Coke.
numbers.
Okay,
We'll take it,
here's
bro.
here's the one thing.
Yeah.
We need all of you guys for my birthday. I just want one gift from all of you guys.
How about
You'll
you
have to-
pay us? How about you pay us what you owe
I knew
us?
it was coming. I knew it was coming.
I know,
How
right?
about that?
I'm gonna need some
This is the
money to
one
buy
gift.
it. Why don't you?
I want all of us to get a tramp stamp together called
No.
Finance Junkies.
I was
Fuck
already in
outta
Vegas
here.
and
Get
got,
the F
luck
got my
with
Wait,
tramp
really?
that.
stamp
You already
right
have a
here.
tramp stamp? You have one
Good
already?
luck.
I was
with
when I was in
that.
Vegas, baby.
Yeah.
That's right.
What is that?
Wait, what is that?
People are gonna have to go look up real close. It was something I designed.
Is that the Virgin Mary? What is that?
No.
You know.
Has a deeper meaning. At least when I was 18.
I think Vitaly should get Enphase tattooed on him. I should get TFC spreads tattooed on me.
Oh,
Carl should get
shit.
Bitcoin, and Chris should just get
Nope.
like
Nope.
S&P
Nope.
500 tattooed on him. Something funny.
S&P. No, he would just have insurance right over
Puts,
his junk.
puts. That's what
Buy puts. Okay, that's plausible. I could do that.
Buy
Palantir tramp stamp. That's right. That's what you should get.
All right, I gotta go pick up
All
my
right.
kid. Thanks, guys.
So that's it. Let me know. Email me on Twitter if you're interested, and I'll send you the deets, and we'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back tomorrow, 7 p.m.
And
All right,
phase.
have a good one.
Later.